Following an action-packed match week 20 of the WSL season, we're here to review it. Again, there was no action at the very top of the table as Chelsea and Arsenal were involved in Champions League semi-finals, but that allows us the opportunity to focus more on the rest of the league. We discuss West Ham's drubbing of Crystal Palace, which resulted in their relegation from the Women's Super League, and we discuss the chaotic matchup between Everton and Brighton. This is our Match Week 20 WSL review. Alright, let's get into it. Match Week 20 of the WSL season has finished, and we're here once again to offer our review, our usual Monday afternoon review. Let's get into it then, Harry. A fun game week. It was a weekend of women's action, women's football on Sunday that was full of action. We obviously had the Women's Champions League semi-finals, which was the focus of our coverage, but obviously WSL fixtures as well, where we saw a team relegated, and we saw promotions and relegations up and down the football pyramid. We saw that London City Lionesses and Birmingham both draw. That was dramatic. And obviously that means that'll go to the final game week. We saw Sheffield United relegated. We saw Nottingham Forest promoted. Ipswich Town promoted as champions, those two. So lots of action up and down the pyramid.
Yeah, it was a really, really good day of football. And I think especially in the WSL, for a reduced game week, we saw a load of goals, we saw a load of action, and we saw a lot decided, as you say. So It was good to see so many different competitions. As we get to the end of the campaign, the results are starting to come in, and champions being crowned, teams are getting relegated. This is the exciting part of the season, and with only 2 game weeks to go now in the WSL, it's a very short amount of time, and everything looks to be all but wrapped up now after this game week.
Yeah, and I think that is contributing. Sometimes when that happens, teams will just take their foot off the gas and not be as bothered. But it feels like every team defensively has done that, and yet they're still all coming forward with a lot of vigour. So it should set up a good fun of few games if they keep up like this. Let's look at our first game of the weekend then. Liverpool 2, Tottenham 2. Probably the best example of what I was just talking about. Neither side here, Harry, could defend.
Yeah, it was a really difficult game to analyse because, as you say, I think that defensively, both sides were shambolic. They were all over the place.
Every goal came from an error.
Every single goal was really poor quality. It, as you said, 2 corners, an own goal, and three corners, an own goal. Terrible goals for a top-tier football match. And yes, it's a point each, but how on earth I was stunned to see it result. It's one of those games where both sides on their day, you'd probably favour Liverpool to get the result, but neither side could defend. Both sides looked good when they looked decent when they came forward. And to be fair, they put the slightest of pressure on each other's back lines, and they found the back of the net. So it really didn't take much in this game to score. A high volume of shots for both sides. If the attacks were clinical, this could have been about 5.
This is the thing. 16 shots each, 6 on target each, 1 big chance between the two of them. How were they having so many chances yet none of them were clear cut? That for me is the really confusing bit. But nobody missed any big chances, so something to be said for that.
Yeah.
It was one of those games where it was very transitional. Both sides got involved a lot, and I think 2-2 was a very fitting scoreline.
Yeah, both goalkeepers were called into action and made some good saves. Both goalkeepers also had interesting moments. I have no idea what Rachel Laws was doing for this first goal. For Tottenham's first goal. I have no idea what anyone in a Liverpool shirt was doing for Tottenham's first goal, and it was a complete mess. I think Lisa Cock could have also done better for Howe's second, but overall, some good saves, but also some blunders, and just it's the basics of football that neither side got right in this football match. Marking from corners, clear the ball from the corner. It's those simple things that neither side got right, and it led to goals being scored. I think Howe did very well to get herself about in that penalty area. She was the one that was getting on the end of the corners and was the one who the ball fell to, and that's good for her to get 2 goals under her belt now that she's back fully firing from injury, so credit to her, and she did cause some problems for that Tottenham back line. For Tottenham, they caused problems for her own back line, and again...
Beth England looked sharp, I thought, for Tottenham. I think she made that bit of a difference up front, and I think that caused a bit of the confusion for Liverpool's defence as how to deal with England. She got a few decent strikes away, but yeah, ultimately it's a frustrating way for both sides to concede 2 goals, and for Liverpool, it slips them down to 6th in the table now after Brighton's late winner against Everton. We'll get to that though later. And then Tottenham, they're still just in no man's land. They're not going to get relegated, obviously. We've already seen the team relegated. But yeah, I don't know what's happened to Tottenham this season. There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm sure we will after the season. But there's a lot to unpack there, and it feels like Tottenham need a big summer.
Yeah, because again, this was the result where, yes, I think on the pitch over the 90 minutes that they were level to get a draw. They deserved to get a point from this game. But on paper, Liverpool probably should have convincingly won this football game. This was the time, I'll be honest, watching Tottenham defensively, I thought Olivia Smith would rock up in this football match and absolutely tear them to shreds. Because you look at the way that Smith has caused problems for the likes of Brighton and United and Chelsea, well, basically every team in the league. But for her to rock up this Tottenham defence, I thought she was very quiet. And that was really weird because Tottenham looked so fragile defensively.
I do wonder if it's because she likes taking players on. And what she likes to do is to take players on high up the pitch, create space in behind. Because Tottenham was so deep, she couldn't really do that. Wasn't really space to exploit in this team. And so, yeah, I do agree, though. Really strangely quiet performance from Smith. Not used to seeing that for her this season. She's been excellent. But quiet in this game. Overall, a point for each side. It's not really what either team wanted, but it wasn't a great game. It was a mental game of football, but neither side played particularly well.
Neither side deserved to win the football match, and I think I'm glad it was a draw because it was the tighter game this season that Tottenham would have probably nicked at the way they've been going about results. But it's one of those where neither side even deserved a point, but they both got a point, and fair enough to them because there were moments of quality, but overall it was a really poor game of football. The goals scored weren't great, and neither side really covered themselves in glory. But it's a positive result for both sides. It's not a loss. It's not a bad result for them.
No, fair enough. Well, from that game then, where fairly even ended in a draw, to the least even game we've seen this season. Crystal Palace 1, West Ham 7. Bit of a shocking result. I mean, obviously, this confirms Crystal Palace's relegation from the WSL, and often talk about going down without a fight. This was a pretty pathetic attempt to stay in the WSL from Crystal Palace.
This is a really bizarre game because again, I think that when you look at the stats, it's not a 7-1 foot. What it was a master. I think you have to praise West Ham more than you have to criticise Crystal Palace because both sides had a lot of shots, but Crystal Palace only put a third of their shots on target. They had 12, put 4 on target. West Ham were so strong. They were so clinical. Every chance they had, they put it on target. They put a brilliant number of shots on. They double digits for shots on target is very, very strong. And I feel for Palace because if West Ham weren't as clinical, this is potentially a different game because I don't think it had got to 7. But West Ham were absolutely brilliant. They were cutthroat. They were consistent. They held that standard throughout the 90 minutes. Shakira Martinez was absolutely phenomenal. And that was the thing. When you look at the reason I feel a bit for Palace in this game is because if you look at the calibre of goals that were scored, I think any side would have struggled to keep them out. I think Martinez had her second one, was an absolute beauty. Harry's had a brilliant one as well. There were goals there that were not easily preventable, and I do think, yes, Palace should have done a lot better. It got out of hand, but some of those goals in there from West Ham were absolutely brilliant.
But they're only not preventable once you get to the point of the shot. But the problem was, my problem with Palace is they got played through so easily. Every time West Ham picked up the ball, it was one pass and they had a 3-on-3. Yes, every single time. That can't happen at this level of football. And ultimately, I mean, Martinez's strikes were good. Asayi's one from range, an absolute perler. She had about 4 that could have gone in before that as well, but eventually found the back of the net. I don't know why the goalkeeper was so far off her line, but there you go. I understand there were some good strikes in there, but they were way too open in this game, Palace, and got played through every single time. So, yeah, I think it's one of those. Palace didn't really show up. West Ham took full advantage of it. I thought we saw a real ruthlessness from West Ham we haven't really seen. This could have been a whole lot worse, though. Just so many chances. 18 shots, 11 shots on target, 5 big chances, and they didn't miss any of them. Yeah. Really clinical, really ruthless. But it's not like Palace weren't in this game at all. They had 12 shots, 4 on target. It's probably the best attacking performance they've had all season. But they were opened up way too easily, and that's just not good enough from Palace. Maybe if they play this way in the Championship, they'll go up because they had chances today, and other teams won't punish that in the Championship. But this just doesn't cut it in the WSL, and it was way too easy for West Ham to play through them and to get chances, to get shots away. really poor performance from Crystal Palace.
Yeah, they went for it. They went for the game, and yes, that helped them in the attacking sense, and they probably could have got a couple more goals, but it left them way too open. And I think that I like Lee Smerard. I think he's come in and he clearly is a good manager and wants to play this certain way. But the problem is that I don't think he has the squad quality that he really wanted or what he really thinks he does. Because I do think that a higher quality side, if they set up and play like the way that Lee Smerard wants to play with Palace, they would get some decent results. But the problem is the quality isn't there for Palace right now to deal with when they lose the ball, because they came forward brilliantly. But as you say, as soon as they got dispossessed, they were at 6s and 7s and they got torn apart. And that was that's a massive problem. And I feel because for Smerard, because the football, it does work. It's just the quality of players wasn't there, and that's why they've been relegated, because that standard just isn't there yet for Crystal Palace.
It was another shape change for Palace in this game. We saw them play a different shape to what they did against Chelsea in the week. I thought there was a bit of steely resolve about their performance against Chelsea. They did stand up for themselves a bit. But here, a bit of a shape change. We saw Lily Woodham, the left back, be a lot higher in this game. It left them with a bit of a 3-1 rest defence, which, as Man City have shown this season, doesn't work particularly well, and you have to have top quality players to make it work at all. And no disrespect to Palace, but they don't have those top quality players, so they ended up with a 3-1 rest defence. The one in there, Lexi Potter, the defence midfielder, would be taken out of the game with any pass forwards, and then you end up with West Ham's front three against Palace's back three. And more often than not, as we saw in this game, West Ham had the advantage there, and they'd beat them player for player. So yeah, it was really naive football from Crystal Palace. So but it did benefit them somewhat attackingly. So that's the only positive I can take from the game. There aren't many.
Yeah, I think they missed Swaby a bit as well. I'm not saying that she would have prevented all 7 goals and then won the game, but it just as the captain in there, just a little bit of a strong motivation, that leader in there, and potentially a little just organising that back line a little bit better, and they might have defended somewhat better, but it really wasn't good enough. And again, it shows that is what we saw in this game, though, wasn't the difference between a Championship side and a lower half WSL side. For me, West Ham in this game proved that there's a reason they're up to 7th in the league now, and they're only a couple points off Brighton in 5th, because West Ham in this game proved that they can play some really nice football, and they've got top quality players. Shakira Martinez looks to be a signing that just takes them to that next level, and we've seen it again, though. It's a little bit like what Smith does, but we've seen Martinez in the big games look really dangerous. Double against Chelsea, scored against Arsenal. She causes problems against the best defences in the league, and I do think that if West Ham can pick up more players like her, they can really solidify themselves as a mid-table top half club in the WSL.
Well, she's on 9 for the season now. Admittedly, this game helps her tally massively.
That is true, yeah.
Takes her from being in sort of that mid-pack of strikers to pushing the top lot. But that's what the best strikers do. They turn up in games where there is that opportunity to exploit the opposition, and I thought she did really well. And well, the golden boot isn't out of her reach. She's 4 goals off Khadija Shaw.
And she scores 4 a game. She can get there very, very quickly. But to give credit to Martinez, to be on 5 goals from 8 starts is not too bad at all.
That's true as well.
Yeah, really strong going into it. But yeah, she's put up a brilliant record this season, and since she joined, she's been absolutely brilliant and has been part of that. And I think that we've also seen the effect that she's had on the rest of the team. We've seen, I think, Asayi has looked better because they've put her out.
They've definitely elevated her numbers. She's on 7 for the season.
That's pretty strong. Katrina Gorey was brilliant again. It was her who drove through for one of Shakira Martinez's many goals and played it into her. But overall, I'm looking at the players like Martinez, like Gorey, who are established players and can really take West Ham to the next level. And I think with a good summer, they could really... again, King of Shemek was another one. I thought that her save at 1-0 was absolutely brilliant, because if that goes 1-1, this could have been a very, very different game if Paris had got back level, but a really good save. They're a couple signings away from being a very, very dangerous club. And I think that a lot of people, especially myself, I predict them to get relegated this season. And now I feel like a right idiot, because they've been superb the second half of the season.
But I think that was justified by how they played last season, by the fact that the signings they made, there was a lot of unknowns in there. Nobody could have expected Shakira Martinez to come in and be this consistent. So Yeah, I think it's justified that they were expected to be lower. I don't think anyone expected to see Aston Villa and Tottenham have as bad seasons as they
Yeah, it's
have,
true.
and obviously Leicester, if they had Rantala and Mouchon, this season may have been very different for them. So, and that's all the clubs below them. So, I mean, they've done really well. They should get. I mean, they could get ahead of Brighton and Liverpool.
That would be incredible.
There's only up as high as sixth if Brighton hadn't
Yeah.
got that last minute winner against Everton. But yeah, really impressive stuff from West Ham this season. They'll be looking to build on that over the summer. They've got some nice fixtures to end the season: Aston Villa and Leicester City. We always looked at the last three games
Yeah.
as this could be the moment for West Ham, but they haven't needed it because they've beaten Tottenham. They drew with City, drew with Chelsea, drew with Manchester United. They've
Brilliant.
proven themselves a really strong team. They should have beaten Arsenal if Curtis Smith hadn't caught the ball in our own penalty area. But they're 3-0 up in that game. They should have held on. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those. What could have been for West Ham this season, really, if they'd played in the first half season like they have in the second. It feels like the reverse Brighton.
Yeah.
If you put Brighton and West Ham together, you get a team that's competing for the Champions League spots. So
Yeah, they've been brilliant, and with those two kind fixtures to end the season, they're probably my favourites now to finish fifth. I really do. I mean, obviously Brighton and Liverpool have something to say about that.
Brighton play Arsenal and Aston Villa.
And are Brighton going to get 6 points from that? I don't think so.
Liverpool, Everton and Chelsea.
Yeah, I think West Ham got a great shot at finishing fifth, which it would be incredible.
And make our reacting to our predictions video even better because we'll just be laughing at you.
Yeah,
Look forward to that. So yeah, that's West Ham at Crystal Palace. Let's move on. I mentioned the Brighton game a few times so far because they are relevant to the conversation around Liverpool and West Ham. But it was Everton 2, Brighton 3. What a game of football!
Yeah, a brilliant match again. No one wanted to defend in the WSL this game week. Another showing of attacking prowess and defensive lack of prowess. But yeah, I think two sides that look pretty dangerous. I thought Everton started the better side, but Brighton really grew into the game and really started to play their stuff. And again, when it was one of those games when Brighton got their best players on the ball, when the likes of Paris and Kirby were linking up and Agumang as well, Brighton looked really, really strong. And that is something we haven't seen from Brighton, I think, in the last couple game weeks. They've ended their winless run finally, which is really good to see. But they, in attacking areas, they moved the ball so well. And all three goals were really nice combinations that led to, yes, a lot of the finishes were from really close range, but the actual football to get into those positions was absolutely brilliant. And it was another showing of when Brighton are on their day, when they're playing the football that we've seen all season, they are still a very, very good football team.
Yeah, first with Agumang, really impressive performances of late. Obviously scored for England in the Nations League. She's now scored in consecutive WSL games. It's good to see that she's getting minutes, but you do have to question why she wasn't brought into the side earlier. I think she's added another dimension to that Brighton attack. Their front line of Paris, Agumang, Kiko Seike looked rather dangerous in this game. Obviously, Kirby in midfield. It was good to see her get a full 90 minutes as well. So, yeah, I mean, she's played. To be fair, she has played the last full 90s. It just she wasn't obviously involved much on international duty, but yeah, I think it's Brighton played well for the first half of the season. It slipped away the second half of the season. This was an important result, though.
Yeah, it was, and I think the fashion they won it in to win it so late on was really strong because again it proved that even the best sides they will win. They will find a way to win football games. That's what Brighton did here, and I don't think Everton did too much wrong. At the end of the day, Brighton have got more quality. They were the better side, and they did deserve to win the game. Obviously, you'll always be frustrated to lose a football match when you concede in the last few minutes. But overall, I think Everton played well. They scored 2 good goals, forced some good saves out of Loek, but Brighton's quality really shone through here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a result that will worry Everton. They've still looked pretty good this season, and I think that even though they're still sat, 8th, I think that's still pretty decent. And some of the performances we've seen from Everton this season will give them a lot of hope. This one, though, it was simply they were just outplayed by Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton 14 shots to 8, 6 on target to 4, but 4 big chances in this game. They took 3 of them, missed 1. It could have been more comprehensive, but they did create good opportunities here, Brighton. But yeah, it's a weird one. Everton, actually, I think the biggest problem for them defensively was not having Kelly Gargo for 2 reasons. One, I think their press suffered.
Yeah.
I think they could have put more pressure on this Brighton backline had they had Kelly Gargo. and two, they don't really have an outlet. And we've seen so many times this season, if they've just got someone like Gargo up there, they lump it long, and Gargo is going to give those defenders hell. And even if she doesn't win the ball back, it's going to kill a minute because they're fighting up there with it. So, yeah, it's more difficult than you just lump it up there, they bring it down, and then they play right through you again. So, or often you don't lump it up there because there isn't that presence. But, yeah, it was one of those games. Brighton played well, deserved the 3 points, I think. So fitting last minute winner.
Yeah, Everton, as you say, they missed Gargo, they missed her last week, they missed her again this week. She's that kind of player. That is okay for this season, but it's something they need to address in the summer. They can't just go, well, Kelly Gargo's not starting, so we're going to lose.
We're not going to win that.
You can't get away with that in football, but it does show the importance that Gargo has to this team and the quality that she does possess. But yeah, Everton, they'll look at it, they'll hope to end the season strong. They'll be, for these kind of mid-table clubs, especially now that there's a 3-point gap has opened up between West Ham in 7th and Everton in 8th, it will feel like now that the 8th downwards will now just consolidate and start looking towards next season.
Well, it's very much in Everton's hands. They play Liverpool and Tottenham to finish this season. If they win both of those, they could finish ahead of their rivals Liverpool, which would be a very poignant result, a very poignant season. If they lose to Liverpool, lose to Tottenham, they could end up slipping behind Tottenham. They could even end up slipping behind Aston Villa, but that doesn't feel possible right now. So they should be all right in that regard. But if Aston Villa do beat Arsenal on Wednesday, then that could very much be a bit of a squeaky bum song. Indeed, a big if. And let's move on though to our final game of the weekend then. Leicester City 0, Manchester City 1. Not one for the ages, Harry.
No, it wasn't. It was a football match that overall I think Man City deserved to win. But if it wasn't for Kiara Keating, this could have been a very, very different game. Leicester City played some really nice football. They defended well, and they did cause Man City a lot of issues. I mean, brilliant from Keating. The one-on-one to deny O'Brien, the short-range save to deny Kane. That's what Keating does. And City got away with one there because it was too easy for them to carve through. But for City, it was 3 points, and it was a game where they saw Greenwood and Hemp return to the pitch, which was really promising to see. They got the result. Again, it's another example of Man City not playing very good football, not being at their best. But that's what Nish Cushing's here to get results and just keep the wins going, and that's what he's doing. At this rate, they're just going to win every game 1-0 at the end of the season.
You call him Nish Cooking?
Nick Cushing.
I prefer Nish Cooking. Leicester 11 shots in this game, only managed to put 3 on target, which I thought was a little disappointing. I think their finishing hasn't been the most clinical this season, but they could have put City under more pressure here with better finishing. Though Man City 19 shots, 72% possession. It was a dominant display in terms of having the ball, but again, I think they really lacked a cutting edge in this game, similar to Leicester. 19 shots, 5 on target.
Wow.
Really have to do better in front of goal. And I know they don't have any of their strikers or any of their attackers or any of their midfielders, but I do feel they could have done a bit more in this game. 5 on target, 3 big chances. They missed 2 of them. They did obviously score that goal through Jess Park. Again, it's not one for the ages. Man City, it's going to be very difficult for them to qualify for Europe now. They could be out of that race if Manchester United beat Chelsea on Wednesday night. They could be firmly back into it if Manchester United don't beat Chelsea on Wednesday night. They're going to be watching that game with bated breath, but a disappointing season for Man City. They are just playing out games now in the desperate hope that United fall.
I think should worry City a little bit is that they did dominate the ball, but how do you let a side? Leicester had 28% of the ball, yet had 11 shots. How do you let that happen? If you're dominating the ball so much, how do you let a side have so many shots with so little of the ball? And again, there's so many problems to address at Man City, and that is something they're going to have to look at over the summer once they've got a proper manager, not a proper manager, like a permanent manager. Nick Cushing is a proper manager, but it's one of those where just keep the results ticking. It was a good goal from Park. It felt like it was coming, but again, not clinical enough and really sloppy at the back. And on another day, they probably wouldn't have got the result here. But as you say, they're actually not in a bad... If United do lose to Chelsea and then City beat United, the gap closes to 1.
It closes to 1, and United play Arsenal on the final day.
I mean...
United have an FA Cup final a week after that.
This is, I mean, there's a lot of... It's going to take a lot.
But the problem is I can't see City beating United right now.
That is true. And
next
even
Sunday.
United might even give Chelsea a game at this rate, but it's going to take United to completely collapse and City to win every single game now at the end of the season.
Maybe our presence will be felt at Old Trafford and United will just collapse.
Yeah, they'll lose it. But City, they're going to give it a good go. For Leicester, it's disappointing. It's been a really tough season for them as well. I think they'll be very frustrated to find themselves sitting in 11th place. It was a season that had a lot of promise. And that could have really seen them gone to do things, and they lost Mushan and Rantala and just gave up scoring, which you can't do in football. And again, it's another game where if they had had better quality attackers on the pitch, they may have got a result. And that's been the story of their season.
Yeah, I think it's been disappointing for Leicester, both sides really in this game.
Yeah, this
probably
was
could have had better
a
seasons.
really sad football match.
Yeah,
Two sides that have not had the season they wanted, just played out a game that, in the grand scheme of things, probably isn't going to mean anything. And it was just a disappointing day at the King Power.
Yeah.
And no one had fun, apart from Jess Park because she scored. And
I think City will take the result.
The highlight of this game was that Hemp and Greenwood are back from injury.
Yeah,
that is the main thing for Man City, and maybe they could make a difference against Man United and the likes. But
it depends how much they can play.
That is true.
Done half an hour here.
Yes, but
which is good to see. But...
yeah, maybe they'll just play the first 30 minutes and bring them off. See, they put them like 3-0 up and then just defend. But yeah, it wasn't good enough really from City in this match, but they won, so well done. And they're still in the European fight. If they get Europe, that will be a miracle.
Yeah,
and they're going to struggle. But
I hope they replace Nick Cushing with Nish Cooking.
Yes, they should bring in Nish Cooking. He just comes in under a false alias and a wig.
He's got a moustache on.
Yeah,
that's the only difference. Right, that is everything for this game week. Let's round up the table. It will change most likely on Wednesday, but we're going to do it anyway. Chelsea, top of the league still, 51.6 ahead of Arsenal. If results go their way on Wednesday night, they could be crowned champions away at Manchester United, which would be nice. Second on the table, Arsenal, 45 points, Champions League finalists. We'll be talking about that tomorrow, so look out for our analysis of the Champions League games over Tuesday and Wednesday. In third, Man United, not involved this game week, but will be playing on Wednesday night, 2 points ahead of behind Arsenal. 4 points ahead of Man City. A win against Chelsea could see them confirm Champions League football for next year. Man City in fourth, 39 points, preying on a miracle now to get themselves into the Champions League. In fifth, it's Brighton, 25 points. A big win this weekend, but a disappointing second half of the season. That fifth place should have been wrapped up ages ago. In sixth, Liverpool, 25 points as well. A disappointing result this weekend sees them drop a place in the table. In seventh, West Ham United, 23 points. A huge win this weekend. They're almost into a positive goal difference. They are 2 goals off being the only side outside of the big four with a positive goal difference, which is insane. Points now. Again, they didn't get anything from this game week, but they are fairly secure in 8th. In 9th, a point for Tottenham Hotspur seems them stay in 9th, but a win could have seen them gain a position. In 10th, Aston Villa didn't play. If they managed to beat Arsenal, they could go back ahead of Tottenham. That is a big if, though. And 11th, Leicester City, also on 16 points. And then bottom of the table, are now relegated from the WSL, Crystal Palace. We'll be playing Championship football again next season.
They've got the quality to come back up, though. Hope we see them again soon.
Yeah.
But
one of Birmingham or London City Lioness is still in there. It's going to be a difficult championship.
Yeah.
But equally, I'm sure the WPLL are about to promote 5 and relegate 7 or something.
Do something
Do it
crazy.
the wrong way around. We need more teams. They're relegating everyone.
Championship's just massive. But yeah, West Ham, good luck to Crystal Palace for next season. To credit to them, because I wouldn't say they gave it their all, but they gave it a good go. Compared to the likes that we've seen in the last couple of years, they did put up a decent fight. It would be nice to see them get into double digits in the final 2 game weeks, but let's see what happens. They put up a decent fight.
I think to create the top division, what they should do is relegate 2, promote 1. So it just always gets smaller until there's no one left.
Second tier.
And then the championship will just keep filling up until eventually it becomes the first tier.
Like it.
There you go, WPLL. If you need someone on your mad ideas board, I've got one for you. Other than that, though, that just round up this game week of the WSL. We'll be back, as I say, to do Champions League analysis over Tuesday and Wednesday, so look out for that. And we'll be back next weekend with streams Monday morning. We're not about on Sunday, because we will be at the Manchester Derby. Very exciting. But other than that, that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.